Hey guys, I'm Ray.
And I'm Jason, and today we're going to walk you through what has held up in our RV over the last 3 years and what hasn't.
We purchased this RV in Los Angeles, California in May of 2017, and we have lived full-time in it since July 2017. Just in case you don't know, our rig is a Grand Design Solitude 375 RES.
And while we are the Grand Design Solitude lifestyle ambassadors, that doesn't mean we're going to hold back. We're going to show you all the issues that we've encountered and all the things that have held up.
So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Start right in the entryway here, and I want to talk to you quickly about our control panels because this is obviously a very important part of the RV, and we were nervous about slides, to be honest, in the very beginning. However, we've been really lucky and haven't had issues with our slides. Well, we did once. So within the first year on the road, this main slide here, which is in our kitchen area, was making a very loud creaking and like moaning and just very scary sound. And so we ended up taking it in for warranty work I think we were about 6 months into our journey, and it had started about 5 months in. So we were kind of just hoping it would go away. By the way, never do that. So anyway, we took it in for RV warranty work, and all they needed to do was adjust the slide and lubricate it, and it's been great ever since. So that's why maintenance is important as well, guys. But other than that, all the slides have worked very well. Our tank sensors for the freshwater black tank and 2 gray tanks, those were never really accurate a couple months after RVing, and you can do the geo method, and there's some deep cleaning things you can do to your tanks, which we still do. However, we did upgrade to the sea level tank monitoring sensors, so that is actually all the way up here. We're tall, so but we still are gonna redo this panel. This was added here when we added our solar controllers, and then we just threw our sea level monitor up there as well. So this actually gives us a much more accurate reading. It goes by gallons instead of 1/3, 1/2, or 2/3 in full. So we do like that a bit better. Our tank heaters, we've only needed to use them maybe 3 or 4 times. However, they've done what they're supposed to do, so no issues there. And I'm trying to see what else is in here. Everything else in here has been great, so that's always a relief. So let's move into the kitchen area. All right, so when it comes to the kitchen, I'm just gonna start with the cons first and then move into the pros. The very first issue that we had in the kitchen was actually with our stove. So what was happening is you would turn on the pilot light, it would work, it would light the oven, and then it would get to temperature, and when the oven went off, the pilot light went out as well. So it would get to temperature and basically turn off. So it would never start to lose temp and turn back on. It just stopped working. So again, we had that covered under warranty. They simply replaced the little gadget under there, and that has been great ever since. Our microwave did go out about 2 years into having this rig, and we don't actually know what happened. It was after a moving day, and I came in here to just throw dinner in, and I went to start it, and it just died. So again, we don't exactly know what happened, but we were out of warranty when this happened. However, Grand Design did send us the microwave for free and said that they just wouldn't cover the install cost, which was totally fine because we replaced it ourselves. And you may have heard about that plate that Grand Design is putting in on some. When we took it off, everything actually looked okay back there. So we are good there with the exhaust vent that they're installing on, or it's a metal plate that they're installing on some of the rigs. We did have one leak, and what was happening, we figured out, was where the tube bends, I think it's just called a U-bend, that wasn't securely connected. So everything was draining and not everything was going down the tube. Some of it was coming out the sides. So we fixed that once. We were paranoid after that, so we continuously checked it after every moving day. We left the screws undone so we can still get back there and look at it, but I'm happy to report it leaked once, and after our repair, everything has been great since. So if you do have a leak, just to let you know, make sure that you dry it out completely. So we threw fans down there and we caught it really early on, which is great, but if you do have a leak, don't totally freak out. Just find the source and make sure you dry everything completely. And we did have an outlet over here, this one that we use very frequently. This is probably the most used outlet in our rig because it is for our coffee pot and our coffee grinder. That did break. Now, I don't mean it stopped working. The faceplate is actually what broke, and so it was kind of just coming out of the wall. So thankfully, Jason just recently fixed this. He replaced the whole box, put a new faceplate on, and it is good as new. And the other item I wanted to mention was there is a flap in our refrigerator, and if we don't remember to close this, then that flap is actually, when the doors are closed, that inner flap is left open, and so you do have a very small gap. There are some solutions that we need to just get around to implementing. From what we can tell online, it's a very simple installation of just adding something at the bottom here, so when the flap closes, it actually just lifts up the flap and forces it to close all the way. So very easy solution, just haven't gotten around to it yet. And the other item I wanted to mention, this has happened throughout the RV, but it seems to happen the most in the kitchen, is we do have trim get loose or fall off. And now I'm not talking about these huge pieces of trim here. I'm talking about stuff like this. That's just a piece we haven't nailed back yet. So for stuff like this, we highly recommend buying a brad gun because it's so easy to use. We had someone tell us that they actually take their rig to the dealership for them to put trim like this back on, and that's, in my opinion, just a total waste of your own time. Why would you take your rig to the repair shop just to have them nail on trim? So we highly recommend purchasing a brad nail gun and putting the trim back on yourself. It's so much easier and you save so much of your own time. And the last two things I wanted to bring up in the kitchen, in my opinion, are still small, but we want to show you everything. So we did kind of stretch for some of these cons. But one of them is the frosted glass here. It does get scratched. This is actually our worst case scenario here. We do have a little scratching in the living room, but this was our battery cupboard and stuff, so it kind of took a beating until we learned how to reorganize everything. So there are solutions. Some people have just painted this entire thing white. Some people have actually put in like foam back here. So there are solutions if you want to protect the glass. We obviously have not implemented any of those. So worst case scenario, we have 2 scratched glass cupboards out of all of them in our rig. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up, oh, Carmen's not gonna be happy with me here, but we do have a squeaky, of course it's not gonna squeak for the camera, but this stair, oh, there we go. This stair occasionally likes to squeak. So again, not a big deal for us. We rarely think of it, but we wanted to put it on the list. So now for the pros. Our refrigerator has been awesome. We haven't had any issues with it besides that door flap, but we've never had issues with it cooling or freezing, so that's been fantastic. As far as the stove goes, once we got that one issue fixed with the pilot light, it's been great. This is the same stove we've had for the entire duration of having the rig, for 3.5 years. And then the wood and the craftsmanship, we're very happy with it. We have dropped heavy items on the floor and haven't scratched or dented the floor. We have knocked things into the cupboards and everything's just held up really well. Oh, that does remind me. So this top drawer the bottom piece of wood, that is the only drawer that we've had issues with. It hasn't fallen out or broken, but we can tell it's just starting to sag. We do have a lot of heavy items in there, so we kind of just understand. For some reason, we were concerned the island was going to be an issue. Actually, the first time we ever showed my dad the RV, the slides were in, and he crawled on top of it to look into the living room, and we just freaked out. So I'm happy to report that after an adult male has climbed over this 3 years ago, and I may or may not have done that since on moving day when we forget something in the living room. However, the island has held up very well. No shaking or breaking or anything like that. So we're very pleased with the island as well. And the countertops look great. We were initially concerned in our PDI walkthrough. Our salesman told us, don't put hot things on it, be very careful. And occasionally I have forgotten. I was very obsessed, but you'll take a hot lid off and you put it on straight on the countertop or something like that. And I've been so paranoid I'm going to pick it up and have like a melted ring in it from the lid, and nothing. So you
use it as a cutting board too.
I wasn't going to admit that, but sometimes when I'm extra lazy, I will cut a few things on here. Thanks for ratting me out. I do mostly use cutting boards, so before people freak out on me. But if I'm feeling extra lazy, I will cut, maybe a tomato or something directly on the counter, and it's held up really well. So I think that might be it in here. When it comes to what used to be our dining area, we took that out, we put in our desk area, and it's been great. The 4 chairs that came with the RV, 2 of them did break after being sat on continuously every single day. They were our working chairs before we purchased these, so that is just something to note. And then again, I want to show you another example of something that we need to just nail on, but our new desks actually broke off this piece of trim. So this actually is supposed to go right here, but we will need to move this desk back, and we also have the tools to nail that back in as well. So again, nail gun is your friend when you're living in an RV. So I think we're ready to move up to the living room. All right, so diving into the cons of our living room. The first one I want to bring up was the first one that ever happened, and it was a year ago when we were passing through Indiana and going to the Grand Design Rally. I brought up the fact that, hey, our seat heater died in one of our love seats, which was absolutely devastating to me because I use our seat heater all the time. So Grand Design was going to take a look at it, figure out what was going on, and then they actually just replaced the whole thing. So we were pleased with that because I had my seat heater back. And the second issue that happened was our fireplace, the heating element stopped working. Again, I use and abuse that thing. So this was a very recent item. Actually, Grand Design just fixed this for us by replacing the fireplace, and we have our heating element back, and I'm so excited. So again, when we say we abuse our rig, we really do. We use and abuse it all the time. So in the winter months, I'm not kidding, that seat heater is on constantly, and this fireplace is on constantly. Which is pretty funny because when we were shopping for RVs and I saw fireplaces in them, I thought that was so silly. However, it is probably my most used feature in here. It's ridiculous how much I use this heater. So one other minor issue we had was this shade fell down and it was actually starting to roll up a little crooked. The fix for this was simply just taking it off. We didn't do this again. Grand Design did this for us last year at the rally, but they take it off and they just re-roll it and put it back up for you. So very simple solution. And then on one of our windows, the screw had stripped out. So when you turn the knob to open the window, the knob would just turn and turn and turn and the window wouldn't open. So they replaced the knob on that and everything's good to go. And as far as the pros, we love our living room. When we are caravanning with friends or, you know, inviting friends over from back home. We feel very comfortable in here. It seats 6 comfortably. Both of these couches on each side pull out into beds. We have had both of our mothers here at the same time over the holidays, and each one had their own bed, and it didn't feel crowded or everyone was stepping on each other. So we love this for entertaining, and we love this room for having guests spend the night with us. The wood and craftsmanship has held up very well in here. Again, all the outlets have worked. I mean, I'll point it out because it's here. You know, this was the other cupboard we got some scratching on, but as you can see, this is where we keep our board games, so it makes sense. Things are slamming up against this window. Yeah, other than that, I'm like trying to think of more cons, and we just can't. The furniture has held up very well. We've seen some people complain about it peeling, and we've never had that issue, and we feel very lucky. We're very happy we haven't. And again, Carmen, as you can see right here, likes to sit on these couches, and when she gets to the zoomies, she jumps from couch to couch. She's allowed on the furniture, so she just uses and abuses this as well, and the furniture has held up very well. We don't have scratches, we don't have issues with it. And I think the last thing I want to bring up in here is the carpet. So Solitudes, after late 2018 models, they stopped putting carpet in them. We actually really like our carpet, and we're very happy that we were able to get a rig with carpet, mostly because Carmen likes it. It's easier on her paws to not be slipping and sliding around, and we like it because it helps with the heat and it helps with the cooling. Those are just our opinions. We've never obviously stayed in a rig that didn't have carpet, but we believe that the carpet does help with the heating and the cooling. So we like it. It's held up well. It hasn't frayed, and yeah, looks good.
So moving on to the bathroom, we've only had a couple of issues in here that we didn't like. The first one, and the thing that we fixed almost immediately, was our sink. The faucet that came with it was very short, and so water splashed very close to the edge of the bowl when it was on like full blast, and so it just kind of like splashed out of the bowl all the time. So we replaced it with one of these really cool open waterfall fountains, and it goes almost directly in the middle now, so less water gets everywhere. I still have a big face is what Ray says, and I splash water everywhere. Other than that, the only other issues that we've had in here are the toilet seat that came with our Thetford toilet. It had like these grooves under it that made it very difficult to clean, or so Ray told me. And the big issue we had was it wasn't like a soft close, and so like if you like bumped the toilet, and the lid would slam down and kind of like scare you because it was really loud. So we got a new soft closing toilet, just like the house. We haven't had any issues with the toilet itself, which is great. And our final issue was actually with our shower here. So it's the 3 glass door model, which we like, but the channel at the bottom is kind of difficult to clean because it's like 3 little individual channels that you have to clean out, and we have to recaulk along the outside to make sure that the water doesn't leak out of the shower and drains into the shower. But other than that, everything else has been great. Things that we absolutely love is the 3 glass doors, or at least a glass door, because I don't think we would like a curtain very much. A lot of people have gone to a curtain style, but we preferred the glass doors. The shower itself has held up incredibly well. It looks pretty close to brand new still. We did have the original shower head until just a little bit ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. We replaced it, and not because we had any issues with it, lots of people told us that Oxygenics is the best shower head you can get, so we replaced it with one, and our flow with our original Grand Design shower head was about equal. So one benefit I can see is actually when we start boondocking again is this has 1 gallon per minute less water use. So for equal flow, less water use, I'll take it. And I think the only other upgrade that we've made for us is adding this Max Air fan and light, which Ray really likes this nice daylight color light at nighttime. She says it's relaxing versus this yellow. And so she'll take a end of the day shower with this nice relaxing light on. And this big Max Air fan vents out all of the steam in here a lot better than the small little computer fan that we had on there before that came with the RV. So overall, I'm surprised at how well everything has held up. I was a little leery because of the amount of steam that we create when we take showers, because we like hot showers, that the walls or something else would have more issues with the moisture. But over 3 years of us being very reckless and setting off the smoke alarm multiple times with the amount of steam that we create from these showers, everything is in great condition. So let's move on to the bedroom. So here in the bedroom, we've also not encountered many issues, but the first one is this closet door. Since day one, it's come off of its track, and I'm sure there's something you can do, but we've just lived with the occasional having to readjust it and put it back on its track. To be honest, I've had trouble with doors like this in houses, and so having trouble with it in an RV isn't a big surprise. I do have a little bit of problems with my little bed stand over here. You can tell it has a little bit of water damage on it, and that is because I drink water and keep it next to the bed at night. And quite frankly, I'm a messy water drinker in the middle of the night. So I'll just take some water, put it down, or there's condensation or something. And so over 3 years, it doesn't look as brand new as Ray's does. And so I have no issues with it, just a little bit of scrapes. The only other big issue I think we've had in here is this AC. A couple of times during the summer when we first got the RV, it always had to be in the summer, it would just not work. And so the first time we actually took it in to get it fixed, and the technician found it was just a loose connection. He re-crimped it, no problem. And after that, we learned that there was a couple of other loose connections and all the wires up there, so we would just kind of jangle them and it would work, and then eventually we'd take the time to find and re-crimp all the new connections. So that was it. We were super worried though that we were gonna have to replace this or it was a bigger issue, but it never was. The other thing that we've had an issue with was actually one of these LED lights. It started flashing very annoyingly, and so we just bought a new replacement off of Amazon, which are very easy, and just reconnected it, and it's worked fine ever since. And we replaced our mattress pretty quickly once we got on the road because the original mattress was not comfortable for us. So other than that, the carpet itself has held up really well. There's a little bit more wearing here in the bedroom than there is in the living room, and I think it's more because we kind of take the same small path in here versus the living room. It's a lot larger area, so we're not walking on the same place, but it's still in great condition, especially for 3 years of daily use. All of the wood in here, like everywhere else, has held up extremely well. Really like all of our drawers. They hold our clothes well. Another thing that we were worried about when we hit the road, we've seen a lot, was actually the bar in here that holds all of your clothes on hangers. We've seen people who it's just kind of like fallen and ripped out, and since we're putting all of our clothes being full-time on it, we're very happy that we've had no issues with it whatsoever. We actually have the same TV that came with the rig in here as well as in the living room, and while they may not be the best quality, they work perfectly fine for us since we stream most of the time, and it actually saves us data not streaming 4K, which I would be very anxious to do if we had like a big fancy 4K TV. So having a 1080p TV works just fine for us, and we've had no problems with it. So let's head outside and we'll show you what's held up and what hasn't out there. Alright, so moving outside, we wanted to cover some of the issues we've had, and none of them have been major. We do have a couple of rock chips in our front cap, but that's going to happen as you drive around like we do all over the freeway. I feel like we actually get more on the main highways than we do when we're like backcountry off roads on like actual dirt roads. We've also had our porch light and our scare light both burn out. They weren't LEDs, but I have replaced them with LEDs, so we shouldn't have any issues with that. Also, I think all the new Solitudes actually come with LED, so you shouldn't have any problems with that going forward. We did have the caps of our awning fall off. It was just the caps, but we've since replaced them. Once again, not a big issue, and they probably wouldn't have fallen off if we had paid attention to it and like pushed them back on if they were like hanging off. But overall, the only things that we really cared about that happened on the outside was we actually had two baggage doors that were a little leaky, and so one, they just replaced the seal, and then the other one, they replaced the seal and kind of like shimmied the door a little bit to make sure that it seals correctly. Now, in terms of pros, I would say our paint has held up incredibly well, along with most of the decals. We don't really baby this thing, and we wash it best effort, I would say. We do it when we can in campgrounds, or we'll do blue beacons, and then once a year we'll pay for a overall waxing. But other than that, sometimes it'll go for a month or maybe two, just being really dirty like it is right now. And the only decal or anything that we've had issues with is actually our front decal, which gets the brunt of the road damage and the sun, so that makes sense. The awning is still the original awning with the original awning fabric and has held up great. That is one of those other big fears we have, just irrationally in the back of our head about the awning, because we've seen so many posts on Facebook where the awnings have like ripped off the RV, and so we're happy with it still working and still being attached to the RV. And then last but not least, we actually have the original Westlake tires that we received the RV with. That was something that was always in the back of our mind when we bought the RV, because a lot of people were always talking about having issues, but we personally loved our Westlakes. We've had no problems with them, and you know, we're not the easiest on them. Like, this is our first trailer. I'm sure we've hit curbs. We just make sure to go under their speed rating, so stick to around 65 miles per hour, try to load the RV appropriately, and keep them inflated to the proper pressure. So other than that, we don't do anything special. We don't rotate them, and they've held up great for 3-year-old tires that have lots and lots of miles. So let's go up onto the roof and we'll show you how that's held up. As you can see, our roof has a little bit more solar on it, which is a little spoiler alert for a future video. But the roof also looks pristine, and that's because we recently just had a new membrane put on it. Last year, we had an issue with our front right corner. The screws were backing out a little bit on the strip that connects the cap to the roof, and so Grand Design actually came and just added some more screws and some more sealant, and that held up really well. but just recently we started to have the issue again, and instead of dealing with it, Grand Design wanted to fix the problem forever, and so just replaced the whole roof membrane. So it looks great up here, and we took that opportunity to move some solar panels over and give us more room to add more solar. We also had them take a look at the entire roof when they had the membrane off, and there was absolutely no water damage on any of the roof, which is great. So the roof has held up incredibly well, except for our one minor problem in the front, and we're very happy with it.
We have been asked multiple times, when are we upgrading? When are we changing RVs? And while a new RV would be very fun, it's a huge investment, and the pros of a new RV would have to outweigh the pros of our current RV. I'd have to say we've probably fallen more and more in love with this RV, and we feel very fortunate that we nailed it the first time around. We haven't needed to change our floor plan because we love the size. We love our floor plan, and speaking as a customer, not an ambassador, we love Grand Design's customer service. We do feel very well taken care of, and we see that they take care of their other customers as well. It's not just who we are.
Yeah, so an RV would have to have all of these fancy little upgrades from all these other RVs that we've seen put into one unit for us to buy it. Other than that, we're gonna stick with this one because we love it.
We know our audience is very meticulous, so if we forgot anything or you have any questions about a very specific part of our rig or anything we've put it through, let us know your questions in the comments and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please do that. We would love to have you in our Getaway gang, and don't forget to like this video. We'll see you next time. Bye guys. Hey guys, I'm Ray.
And I'm Jason.
Oh my god. Seriously, I can't, like, hold on.
That one went right in my eye.
Should we go inside?
Yeah, let's go inside.
I don't mean it stopped working. The what's it called? We have a Bradley nail gun.
You make it sound so fancy.
What?
Well, it's a Brad nail gun.
Oh.
And you call him Bradley.
Bradley. God.
Bradley.
Shut up.
In like small travel trailers, it's a Brad nailer. In this luxury RV, it's a Bradley nailer.
They said bring it in, we'll take a look. What?
Is it looking for heating or something?
What's overheating?
Camera.
The camera?
So moving on to the bathroom.
Okay, that helps. No, not that.